The massive council chamber on Nexus Prime stretched out like a metal ocean. Thousands of seats held creatures from across the galaxy. Some floated in transparent bubbles filled with methane gas. Others sat on heated rocks that glowed red. A few hung upside down from the ceiling like sleeping bats. Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim sat in the human section. His dark suit looked plain next to the colorful robes and glittering scales around him. Next to him, his aide So-Young Park quietly typed notes on her tablet. Her fingers moved fast as she recorded every word spoken in the chamber. The Galactic Council had been meeting for 3 days. The topic was always the same. Humans were too dangerous. Humans moved too fast. Humans asked too many questions. Humans built too many ships. The human species continues to expand without proper authorization, said Velthar. The tall blue creature stood at the speaking platform. His 4 arms moved as he talked. 2 held data tablets. The other 2 pointed at images floating in the air. In the past year alone, they have established colonies in the Kepler sector, the Vega system, and the Outer Rim territories. Clicks and buzzes filled the air as different species agreed. The insect-like Kithera made sharp clicking sounds with their mandibles. The crystal beings called Nexari hummed low notes that made the floor vibrate. Even the peaceful Grimmalians nodded their large heads. Hyunwoo watched the display without moving. His face showed nothing. So-Young glanced at him but continued typing. She had worked with the ambassador for 5 years. She knew that look. It meant trouble. Furthermore, Velthar continued, the humans refuse to share their fusion technology. They claim it is for defensive purposes only, but we have reports of human ships carrying weapons powered by these same fusion cores. More agreement sounds filled the chamber. The Althurian delegate raised one of his arms higher. The humans also trade with species outside the council. They make deals without our approval. This violates the Trade Regulation Treaty of 2387. Hyunwoo finally moved. He leaned forward slightly. So-Young stopped typing and looked at him. The ambassador's jaw was tight. They build military bases in systems they call empty. Another voice called out. This came from a Nexari crystal being. Its voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. But these systems have been claimed by the Council for future development. Empty for 3,000 years. So-Young whispered. Only Hyunwoo could hear her. He almost smiled but kept his face blank. The accusations continued for another hour. Humans were too aggressive. Humans didn't follow proper diplomatic channels. Humans asked for equal voting rights despite being new to the galaxy. Humans wanted to explore restricted areas of space. The most serious concern, Velthar said, raising his voice, is the human military buildup. They now have over 800 ships of war. This is more than some council races have built in a millennium. 800 ships to protect 200 colonies across 50 star systems, So-Young whispered again. The Althurians have 3,000 ships for 12 systems. Hyunwoo knew the numbers. Every human diplomat knew them by heart. The human fleet was spread thin across a vast area of space. Most human ships were small and designed for exploration, not war. But facts didn't matter in this chamber. They never had. The human expansion must be stopped, Velthar declared. I propose Resolution 4471. Humans will be restricted from entering the Kepler sector, the Vega system, and all Outer Rim territories. Any human ships found in these areas will be escorted out by Council forces. The chamber erupted in sounds of approval. Thousands of different voices, clicks, hums, and roars filled the air. The translator systems worked overtime to convert everything into the common galactic language. Hyunwoo stood up slowly. The noise died down as creatures noticed the human movement. So-Young also stood, her tablet ready. The human delegation requests permission to speak, Hyunwoo said. His voice was calm and clear. The chamber's sound system carried his words to every corner. The council speaker, an ancient Nexari crystal being, hummed a low note. Permission granted. Ambassador Kim may address the council. Hyunwoo walked down the steps to the speaking platform. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. He looked around the chamber, making eye contact with delegates from dozens of species. Many looked away. Some stared back with what might have been curiosity or contempt. "Honored council members," he began, "I have listened to 3 days of accusations against humanity. We stand accused of being too aggressive, too fast, too independent. We are called dangerous because we explore new worlds and defend ourselves." He paused and looked up at Velthar, who had returned to his seat. "The Althurian delegate speaks of our 800 ships as a threat, but he does not mention that these same ships have rescued 17 different species from natural disasters in the past 2 years. Grammalian colonies saved from solar flares. Nixari crystal gardens protected from asteroid impacts. Kithra hive ships pulled from black hole gravity wells. A few creatures shifted in their seats. The Grammalian delegate looked uncomfortable. The Kithira section fell silent. "You say we expand too quickly," Hyunwoo continued. "But human colonies always share their resources with nearby council species. We have given fusion power to 47 different worlds. We have shared our medical advances freely. Our agricultural techniques have ended famines on 12 planets." So Young watched from the human section. She could see some delegates nodding slightly, but most still looked hostile. The council had made up its mind before the session began. "You accuse us of violating trade agreements by dealing with non-council species," Hyunwoo said, his voice growing stronger. "But the council voted to exclude those species from membership: the Zephyrians, the Mantari, the free colonies of the Perseus Arm. You denied them seats at this table, then forbid others from trading with them. How is this justice?" The chamber remained mostly silent now. A few scattered clicks and hums, but nothing like the earlier chaos. "For 50 years, humanity has tried to be good council members," Hyunwoo said. "We followed your rules. We asked permission for every expansion. We shared our technology freely. We joined your wars against the Devourers. We bled and died alongside every species in this chamber." He looked around again, this time more slowly. "And what do we receive in return? Restrictions, suspicion, accusations. You treat us like children who cannot be trusted with sharp objects." Velthar stood up in his section. "The human expansion threatens the stability of the galaxy. Your species is too young, too reckless. You need guidance from older, wiser races." "Older, yes," Hyunwoo replied. "Wiser? That remains to be seen." The speaker hummed loudly. "The council will now vote on Resolution 4471. All in favor?" The chamber lit up as thousands of delegates activated their voting crystals. Green lights filled the air like stars. The counting system worked quickly. 47 votes in favor, the speaker announced. All opposed? Only the human section showed red lights. 12 delegates representing humanity. The votes opposed. Resolution 4471 passes. Humans are restricted from the designated sectors effective immediately. Hyunwoo nodded slowly. He had expected this result. So had everyone in the human delegation. But knowing something would happen, and watching it happen, were different things. He walked back up to his seat where So Young waited. She handed him a small device. He looked at it for a moment, then pressed a single button. The device beeped once. Around the galaxy, similar devices beeped in human embassies, trade stations, military bases, and exploration ships. The signal meant one thing. Execute Protocol Omega. Hyunwoo stood again. The chamber was beginning to break up as delegates prepared to leave. His voice carried clearly through the noise. The human delegation has an announcement. The speaker hummed in annoyance. Ambassador Kim, the session is concluded. This will only take a moment, Hyunwoo said. He waited until most of the chamber was quiet again. Effective immediately, humanity formally withdraws from the Galactic Council. The silence that followed was complete. Even the translation system seemed to pause. Thousands of creatures stared at the human section. Furthermore, Hyunwoo continued, all human diplomatic, trade, and military agreements with council species are terminated. Human ambassadors will return to Earth within 30 standard days. All human personnel will be withdrawn from joint operations and facilities. So Young stood and began walking toward the exit. Other human delegates followed her. Hyunwoo remained at the platform. In 50,000 years of Council history, he said, no species has ever voluntarily left this body. Today that changes. When you are ready to treat humanity as equals rather than children, you know where to find us. He turned and followed his delegation out of the chamber. Behind him, chaos erupted as thousands of voices tried to speak at once. Translation systems overloaded and shut down. The ancient order of the Galactic Council faced something it had never encountered before, a species that chose to walk away. 2 weeks after the withdrawal announcement, Admiral Ji-Ho Lee stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Soul's Pride. Through the massive viewing window, he watched 200 human ships form into perfect departure formations. The vessels ranged from massive battle cruisers to small patrol boats. All of them were leaving the joint defense perimeter around the Nexus system. Admiral, the last of our personnel have been evacuated from Station Harmony, reported Commander Byung-Soo Kang. The younger officer held a data pad with evacuation lists, 347 humans total. The Althurians were not happy about losing our engineering teams. Ji-Ho nodded but said nothing. He had commanded joint operations with alien fleets for 15 years. Many of the alien officers had become friends. Now he was cutting all ties and taking his ships home to human space. Sir, incoming transmission from the Nexari Fleet Marshal Kaithara, the communications officer announced. Put it through, Ji-Ho said. The holographic image of a tall crystal being appeared in front of the Admiral. Its voice sounded like musical chimes, but the tone was urgent. Admiral Lee, please reconsider this withdrawal. The Outer Rim patrol zones will be defenseless without your ships. The Devourers could attack at any time. Ji-Ho looked at his old ally. They had fought together against pirate fleets and explored dangerous sectors side by side. Marshal, my orders come directly from Earth Command. All human forces are to return to human territory immediately. But the defense grid will have gaps without your patrol routes, the crystal being chimed frantically. Your ships cover 30% of the outer perimeter. Then I suggest you deploy more Nexari vessels to fill those gaps, Ji-Ho replied calmly. The Council voted that humans cannot be trusted with military responsibilities. Perhaps it is time for other species to take on more duties. The transmission ended. Kaithara's image faded away, leaving the bridge quiet except for the hum of ship systems. Admiral, Commander Kang said softly, the alien fleets are requesting detailed handover briefings for all patrol sectors. They want our navigation data, threat assessments, and strategic plans. Ji-Ho almost smiled. Tell them such information is classified under human military protocols. They are welcome to conduct their own surveys of those sectors. On the far side of the galaxy, Captain Yoonji Choi was having her own difficult conversations. Her cargo ship, the Busan Runner, sat in the docking bay of Kepler Station, one of the largest trading hubs in Council space. Alien merchants and traders filled the station corridors, but today they all wanted to talk to the human captain. Yoonji, you cannot be serious about this, said Thexel, her Gramilian business partner. The large bear-like creature waved his thick arms as he spoke. We have contracts worth millions of credits. 5 years of building trade relationships. Yoonji sealed the last cargo container and checked her manifest. The contracts are void, Thexel. All human business agreements with Council species ended when we withdrew. But this is just politics, Thexel protested. Business should be separate from government decisions. The human captain looked at her old partner. Thexel had been fair in all their dealings. He had never treated her badly because she was human. But that did not change the situation. Politics and business are not separate, she said quietly. Your government voted to restrict human expansion. Your people supported treating us like dangerous children. How can I do business with species that do not respect humanity? She walked toward her ship's loading ramp. Thexel followed her, his heavy footsteps echoing in the docking bay. I never supported those restrictions, he said desperately. Many Gramalians think the Council was wrong. We value human trade partnerships. Yoonji stopped and turned around. Then your people should have voted differently in the Council. Actions have consequences, my friend. When your government is ready to treat humans as equals, come find us. She climbed the ramp into her ship. The cargo hold was only half full. She was leaving behind valuable goods rather than complete her planned trades. The financial loss would be enormous. But some things were more important than profit. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. On the mining world of Zerion 7, Foreman Dae-Hyun Yoon gathered his human workers around their equipment. The massive extraction machine stood silent as he addressed his team. Pack everything, he told them. Tools, spare parts, technical manuals, personal belongings. We leave nothing behind that might help them continue operations without us. But sir, said engineer Min Kyung Lee, we have contracts to extract rare elements for another 2 years. The local government is counting on those materials. Dae-hyun looked at the alien overseers watching from a distance. The Grimalian administrators looked worried. They knew that human engineers had designed most of the mining systems on this world. Our contracts became invalid when humanity left the council, he said loudly enough for the aliens to hear. The mining equipment belongs to the Xerian colonial government, but the knowledge of how to operate it belongs to us. Governor Mordex, the lead Gromalian administrator, approached the human group. His fur looked disheveled and his large eyes showed concern. Foreman Yoon, surely we can reach some accommodation. The mining operation employs thousands of workers from 6 different species. If production stops, the entire colonial economy will collapse. Then perhaps you should have thought of that before supporting restrictions on human expansion, Dae-hyun replied. The council wanted us gone. Now you have your wish. Across human space, similar evacuations continued. On research stations, human scientists packed up their experiments and data. On trade posts, human merchants liquidated their inventory at huge losses rather than honor existing contracts. On diplomatic stations, human ambassadors shredded classified documents and shut down communication arrays. Dr. Sun Ho Park had spent 8 years working on quantum communication research at the Advanced Sciences Institute on Kepler Prime. His work had improved long-distance communication across the galaxy. Now he stood in his empty laboratory, watching alien assistants try to understand his research notes. Dr. Park, please, begged his Althurian colleague, Dr. Velnara. The quantum resonance project is only halfway complete. Without your expertise, we cannot finish the work. Sun Ho sealed the last of his personal research data into an encrypted storage device. Dr. Velnara, you are a brilliant scientist. I am sure you will figure it out eventually. But this research belongs to the Institute, not to humanity alone, the blue-skinned alien protested. You cannot take years of collaborative work with you. I can take my contributions to that work, Sun Ho replied calmly. My theories, my calculations, my experimental designs. The Institute is welcome to continue the research using what remains. He walked toward the door, then paused. Of course, without the quantum field equations I developed, the project will probably set you back about 10 years. But I'm sure the Council can find other scientists to replace the dangerous humans. The evacuation continued for weeks. Human colonies along Council borders shut down their trading posts and recalled their exploration ships. Human medical teams left alien hospitals, taking their advanced surgical techniques with them. Human teachers closed their schools on multi-species worlds, ending exchange programs that had run for decades. On Earth, President Seo Jin-yu met with her cabinet in the underground war room. Large screens showed the progress of the global withdrawal. Red dots marked human facilities as they went dark. Green dots showed human ships and personnel as they returned to human territory. Status report, she said to General Woo-sung Kim, head of military operations. 93% of our people have returned or are en route, the general reported. The remaining 7% are in deep space or remote locations. They should be back within 60 days. Any incidents? The president asked. Several alien governments have tried to prevent our people from leaving, replied Foreign Minister Young Mi Choi. The Vega colonial government impounded 3 human cargo ships. The Althurian fleet detained our research vessel Sejong for 2 days. All have been resolved diplomatically, but tensions are rising. President Yu studied the screens. What about economic impacts? Significant, admitted economic advisor Tae Jun-ryu. We are losing approximately 40% of our interstellar trade. Many human businesses will face bankruptcy. Unemployment in the spacefaring sectors could reach 30%. And alien economic impacts? Tae-jun smiled slightly. Much worse for them. Human businesses provided critical services across the galaxy. Our ships carried 60% of all interstellar cargo. Our engineers maintained thousands of facilities. Our medical team staffed hospitals on 200 alien worlds. The president nodded. How long before they start feeling the real effects? Conservative estimate? 6 months before serious problems. 1 year before critical failures, Tae-jun replied. assuming they can find replacements for human expertise, which they cannot, added General Kim. Human engineering, human logistics, human coordination. We have been the invisible foundation holding their civilization together. Now that foundation is gone. Outside Earth's orbit, the last human ships continued arriving from distant corners of the galaxy. Each vessel carried stories of alien confusion and growing panic as human personnel departed. 6 months had passed since the human withdrawal. At first, the galaxy had celebrated. News broadcasts across Council space declared it the end of human aggression and a return to proper galactic order. The Althurian news networks ran special programs about how peaceful the galaxy had become without human interference, but now the celebrations were growing quiet. On the crystal world of Nexus Prime, Communications Director Zixara floated anxiously in her control chamber. Her crystalline body glowed red with stress as she watched the massive communication array struggle to maintain connections across the galaxy. The quantum relay network is failing, again, reported her assistant, a young Nixari named Kethel. Communication delays between the outer rim and core worlds have increased to 18 hours. Zixara's glow shifted to orange, the color of deep concern. Show me the technical analysis. The holographic display showed communication pathways across the galaxy. Large sections pulsed red, indicating failure or severe delays. Most of the failed nodes were in areas that had been maintained by human technicians. The problem is the quantum field stabilizers, Kethel explained. They were designed by Dr. Min-Ho Song and his research team. Without regular calibration using his equations, the fields are becoming unstable. Can we not replicate his work? Zixara asked, though she already knew the answer. We have tried, but Dr. Song's quantum mathematics are beyond our current understanding. His theories about multidimensional field resonance were at least 50 years ahead of our own research. Zixara dimmed to a pale blue. The galaxy's communication network had worked perfectly for decades. No one had thought about what would happen if the humans who maintained it simply disappeared. Halfway across the galaxy, similar problems were emerging. Governor Mordek stood in the command center of Zerion 7th's mining operation. The huge machines that extracted rare elements from the planet's core sat silent and dark. How long until we can restart production? He asked Chief Engineer Telmax, a Grimalian who had worked in the mines for 20 years. That is the problem, Governor, Telmax replied nervously. We cannot restart the machines at all. The human foreman and his team took all the technical manuals and operational codes with them. Mordex's thick fur bristled with frustration. Surely we can figure out how to operate our own mining equipment. The equipment was designed and built by human engineers, Telmax explained. They integrated systems from 6 different manufacturers using custom programming. Without the humans' technical knowledge, we are essentially trying to operate machines we do not understand. What about hiring human contractors? Mordex suggested. All human businesses have terminated contracts with council species, Telmax said quietly. They will not work for us at any price. The governor looked out at the massive mining complex. Thousands of workers from multiple species had lost their jobs when the machines shut down. The colonial government was facing bankruptcy without mining revenues. How long can we survive without rare element exports? He asked. 3 months, Telmax replied. Maybe 4 if we reduce government services. Similar conversations were happening on hundreds of worlds. On Kepler Station, the largest trading hub in council space, Station Master Vexistari watched cargo traffic drop by 60%. Human ships had carried most goods between star systems. Without them, trade routes were collapsing. The shipping schedules are completely broken, reported Logistics Coordinator Himara. We have cargo waiting for transport to 400 different worlds, but no ships available to carry it. What about non-human shipping companies? Vextari asked. They exist, but they are too small and too few, Himara explained. Human shipping companies had the largest fleets and the most efficient routes. They also provided standardized cargo containers, universal docking systems, and automated loading equipment. Vextari studied the cargo manifest. Food shipments for colony worlds, medical supplies for hospitals, industrial components for manufacturing planets, all of it sitting in warehouses because no one could transport it efficiently. How many worlds are affected by the shipping delays? Over 800 so far, Himara said. Food shortages are beginning on 12 agricultural import worlds. 3 manufacturing planets have shut down production lines due to missing components. But the most serious problems were appearing in the military sphere. Fleet Marshal Kithara of the Nexari Defense Forces floated in her command center, studying reports from the Outer Rim patrol zones. The news was not good. Pirate activity has increased 400% in the former human patrol sectors, reported her aide, Commander Zephal. Without human ships maintaining security, raiders are attacking shipping lanes and isolated colonies. Deploy additional Nexari vessels to fill the gaps, Kithara ordered. We have tried, Marshal, but we do not have enough ships to cover the territory the humans were patrolling. Their patrol routes covered 40 star systems across 8 sectors. Kithara's crystalline form glowed with frustration. Then prioritize the most important systems. Which systems are most important? Zephal asked. The humans had detailed threat assessments and strategic plans for each patrol zone. They understood the complex relationships between different pirate groups, smuggling routes, and vulnerable colonies. Do we not have copies of their strategic plans? No, Marshal. The humans classified all military intelligence as restricted information. When they withdrew, they took all strategic data with them. The implications were becoming clear. Human ships had not just patrolled space randomly. They had maintained a complex security network based on decades of experience and detailed intelligence. Without that knowledge, alien fleets were flying blind. On the research world of New Athens, Dr. Velnara stood in his empty laboratory. 6 months ago, it had been the galaxy's leading center for quantum research. Now most of the equipment sat unused because no one understood how to operate it properly. His former human colleague, Dr. Sun Ho Park, had designed most of the experimental apparatus. The machines were incredibly advanced, but they required precise calibration, using theories that only humans seemed to understand. Any progress on the quantum resonance project? Asked Research Director Kixander, an elderly Altherian. None, Velnara admitted. Without Dr. Park's field equations, we cannot properly tune the quantum generators. Every attempt to run experiments results in system failures. What about his published papers? His published work only covers basic theory, Velnara explained. The advanced mathematics he used for practical applications were never published. He said they were proprietary human research. Kixander's forearms gestured in frustration. So years of research are simply lost? Not lost, Velnara corrected. Still controlled by the humans. They have all the knowledge needed to continue this work. We do not. The research director was quiet for a moment. Then he asked the question that more and more aliens were thinking. How do we get them back? On distant Earth, intelligence analysts were carefully monitoring galactic communications. Captain He-Jin Kang sat in a secure facility deep beneath Seoul, reading reports from automated listening posts scattered across the galaxy. The communication breakdowns are worse than we predicted, she told her supervisor, Colonel Jun-Sik Park. Some Outer Rim colonies have been without reliable communication for weeks. What about the mining operations? 17 major facilities have shut down completely. 43 more are operating at reduced capacity. The Grimalian colonial economy is facing collapse. Colonel Park nodded grimly. And shipping? Cargo backlogs are building up at every major trading hub. Several agricultural worlds are reporting food shortages. 3 manufacturing centers have stopped production. Military situation, pirate attacks have increased dramatically. The alien fleets cannot maintain security without our patrol networks and intelligence data. Colonel Park studied the reports. How long before they realize they need us back? Conservative estimate? 3 more months before critical system failures force them to act. But pride will make them resist for longer. And if they do not act? Captain Kang looked at the data screen showing the slowly collapsing galactic infrastructure. Then the Council will fall apart within 2 years. Most member governments will be too busy dealing with internal problems to maintain galactic unity. The Colonel was quiet for a moment. Sometimes the best way to show people what you are worth is to stop doing the work they take for granted. Outside the secure facility, Earth continued its normal activities. Human colonies were prospering without the restrictions imposed by the Council. Human businesses were developing new technologies without being forced to share them immediately. Human exploration ships were mapping new star systems without asking permission. But in the depths of space, automated human monitoring stations continued to watch the galaxy's slow collapse. Every communication failure, every mining shutdown, Every pirate attack was carefully recorded. The galaxy was learning what it meant to live without humans. The lessons were becoming more expensive every day. 1 year after the human withdrawal, the galaxy faced its first major crisis without human support. The emergency began at dawn on the rim world of Vega 7, when massive black ships emerged from hyperspace and began bombarding the planet's surface. The Devourers had returned. In the Galactic Council's Emergency Command Center on Nexus Prime, alarms screamed as reports flooded in from 3 different star systems. The ancient machine intelligence that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia was launching coordinated attacks across the outer rim. "How many ships?" demanded Council Speaker Zixathera, her crystal form glowing bright red with panic. "At least 200 Devourer vessels across 3 systems," reported Military Coordinator Velkan. "They have attacked Vega 7, the Kepler mining colonies, and the Althurian research station at Proxima Base." Fleet Marshal Kithara materialized in the command center via hologram. Her crystal form flickered with emergency transmission static. "We are mobilizing all available fleets, but we have a problem. Our defensive protocols are failing." "Explain," the speaker demanded. "The shield wall defense strategy was designed by General Taksu Han and his human tactical team," Kithara said. "It has kept the Devourers at bay for 15 years. But we cannot implement it properly without human coordination systems." War Prime Zelnoth, the senior Althurian military commander, appeared via another hologram. His forearms gestured frantically as he spoke. "I have tried to execute the human battle plans from our database files. The initial deployment went well, but when the Devourers adapted their tactics, our response fell apart." "What do you mean it fell apart?" the speaker asked. "Human military doctrine relies heavily on rapid tactical adjustments," Zelnoth explained. "Their commanders could modify battle plans in real time based on enemy actions. Our command structure is too rigid. By the time we analyze enemy movements and approve tactical changes, the Devourers have already countered our moves." Military Coordinator Velkan brought up tactical displays showing the 3 battle zones. In each area, Council fleets were taking heavy casualties. "Our losses are already 3 times higher than in previous Devourer encounters. Where are our reserve fleets?" the speaker demanded. "Scattered across the galaxy trying to maintain security in former human patrol zones," Kithara replied bitterly. "Without human intelligence networks, we cannot predict where attacks will come next. We have been reacting to pirate raids and civil unrest instead of maintaining strategic reserves." The situation deteriorated rapidly over the following hours. On Vega 7, ground forces tried to evacuate civilians while Devourer machines systematically destroyed the planet's infrastructure. The evacuation ships were slow and inefficient compared to human-designed transport systems. "We need immediate reinforcements at Vega 7, reported Colony Commander Mortek. "The Devourer ground forces are using some kind of new adaptive technology. They are countering our weapons almost instantly." War Prime Zelnoth studied the battlefield reports with growing dismay. The human military databases contain references to adaptive Devourer technology, but the analysis files are encrypted with human military codes. "Can we not break the encryption?" asked Velkan. "Human encryption is remarkably sophisticated," Zelnoth admitted. "Our best codebreakers estimate it would take 6 months to decode the files. We need the information now." On the bridge of the Nexari flagship Crystal Dawn, Fleet Marshal Kithara watched her tactical displays with growing desperation. Devourer ships were systematically destroying her fleet formations using tactics she had never seen before. "Marshal, the enemy vessels are adapting to our weapons faster than ever before," reported her tactical officer. "They are neutralizing our plasma cannons within minutes of first contact." "What about the human counter-adaptation protocols?" Kithara asked. "We do not have access to those protocols. General Han classified them as human-only military secrets." Kithara's crystalline form flashed bright orange with frustration. The humans had always been the tactical experts in joint operations against the Devourers. They understood the ancient enemy's adaptation patterns and had developed complex counter-strategies over decades of warfare. Now that knowledge was gone, locked away in human military databases on distant Earth. Similar problems plagued every aspect of the defense effort. The communication networks that should have coordinated fleet movements were still unreliable after months of human absence. Supply lines that had efficiently moved weapons and equipment to battle zones were broken. Medical facilities that should have treated wounded soldiers lacked advanced human surgical techniques. On Kepler Station, Medical Director Hixara watched helplessly as casualties flooded her treatment centers. "We are losing patients that human doctors could have saved," she told her staff. The surgical techniques for treating Devourer energy weapon injuries were developed by human medical teams. "Do we not have medical records from previous battles?" asked Dr. Kelnara. "We have basic treatment protocols but not the advanced procedures," Hixara explained. Human military medics were always the specialists for combat injuries. They never fully shared their most effective techniques. As the battles continued, the depth of galactic dependence on human expertise became terrifyingly clear. Human engineers had designed most of the weapon systems being used against the Devourers. Human tacticians had developed the strategies that kept machine forces at bay. Human logistics specialists had created the supply networks that fed the war effort. Without them, the galaxy's defenses were falling apart. 3 days into the crisis, Captain Heejin Kang sat in her monitoring station on Earth, watching the battle reports with professional interest and personal sadness. She had friends among the alien species fighting the Devourers, but her orders were clear. "Observe and record, but do not interfere." "The Nexari Third Fleet has been destroyed," she reported to her supervisor. "Devourer adaptive technology neutralized their weapons in less than 4 hours." Colonel Junsik Park studied the tactical analyses. "How are they doing compared to previous Devourer conflicts?" "Badly. Without human tactical support, they are losing ships at 5 times the normal rate. The Althurian fleets are using outdated strategies that the Devourers adapted to decades ago." "What about ground operations?" "Even worse. Human-trained special forces units were always the primary response to Devourer ground invasions. The alien militaries are essentially trying to fight a war they do not understand." The colonel was quiet for a moment. "Any requests for human assistance?" "Not yet. The Council is still trying to handle the crisis alone." "How long before they realize they cannot?" Captain Kang looked at the casualty reports flooding in from the 3 battle zones. "At current loss rates, they will run out of effective military assets within 2 weeks." On Nexus Prime, that same calculation was becoming clear to Council leadership. In an emergency session, Speaker Zixathara faced the grim reality of the situation. "Military casualties have reached 30% across all engaged fleets," reported Velcon. "We cannot sustain these losses much longer." "What about requesting aid from neutral species?" suggested the Grimalian delegate. "The neutral species do not have the military capacity to fight the Devourers," replied War Prime Zelnuth. "Only the major council races have significant fleets, and we are already fully committed." The chamber was quiet for a long moment. Finally, the Althurian delegate Velthar spoke the words everyone was thinking. "What about the humans?" The question hung in the air like a toxic gas. For a year, the council had celebrated being free of human influence. They had called humanity too aggressive, too militaristic, too dangerous. Now they faced an enemy that their peaceful, civilized approach could not defeat. "The humans are no longer council members," Speaker Zixthara said carefully. "We have no formal relationship with them. But they have experience fighting the Devourers," Velthar pressed. "Their military doctrines were specifically designed for this kind of warfare. Are we seriously considering asking the species we expelled for help?" asked the Cathera representative, clicking disapproval. "We are seriously considering survival," Velthar replied bluntly. "Without human military expertise, we are going to lose this war." The debate continued for hours, but the reality was inescapable. The galaxy's most powerful civilizations were being systematically defeated by an enemy they thought they understood. Meanwhile, the species they had dismissed as too aggressive possessed the exact knowledge needed to win. Pride, it seemed, was a luxury they could no longer afford. As the Council argued, more ships died in the cold darkness of space. The Devourers continued their relentless advance, adapting to every tactic the aliens tried. The galaxy's defenders fell back system by system, their formations crumbling without the tactical genius of human military science. The great powers of the galaxy were discovering that there was a difference between peace and weakness, between wisdom and knowledge, and between age and experience. The young, aggressive humans they had expelled possessed something the ancient civilizations lacked: the brutal expertise needed to fight and win wars against impossible enemies. The question now was whether galactic pride would bend before galactic survival. 2 years had passed since humanity's withdrawal and the galaxy was burning. Not just from the Devourer War, though that conflict continued to rage across 17 star systems. The entire structure of galactic civilization was collapsing like a house built on shifting sand. Chief Engineer Woo-Jin Kim stood in the observation deck of Luna Station, watching Earth turn slowly below. As the cousin of former Ambassador Hyun-Woo Kim, he had followed the galactic situation closely. The reports coming in from across the galaxy painted a picture of systematic breakdown that even the most pessimistic human analysts had not predicted. The Nexari home system has lost primary power, reported intelligence analyst Young-Suk Lim as she entered the observation deck. Her datapad glowed with urgent updates from monitoring stations across human space. Their fusion reactors have been failing for months. Without human maintenance protocols, they cannot keep the power grid stable. Woo-Jin nodded grimly. How bad is it? 3 billion Nexari are living without reliable electricity. Their crystalline cities, which depend on constant energy flow to maintain structural integrity, are beginning to crack. Some of the smaller settlements have already collapsed completely. The reports had been coming in for weeks. The advanced fusion reactors that powered most alien civilizations had been originally designed through joint research projects with human engineers. The human scientists had contributed crucial innovations in plasma containment and field stabilization. When the humans left, they had taken that knowledge with them. What about their attempts to restart the reactors independently? Woo-Jin asked. Disaster, Young-Suk replied. The Velthari tried to modify their reactor systems using their own technology. 3 plants exploded. 2 entire colonies had to be evacuated. On the other side of the galaxy, similar catastrophes were unfolding. The Kythera hive ships, massive vessels that housed millions of insect-like beings, drifted helplessly through space as their navigation systems failed one by one. The complex quantum computers that guided the ships had been designed using human programming techniques that no other species fully understood. Hive Queen Zix Kala floated in her damaged command chamber, her compound eyes reflecting the emergency lighting. Around her, worker drones clicked frantically as they tried to repair systems they could not comprehend. Navigation Computer 7 has failed, reported her chief technician. That leaves us with only 3 functional units. How many ships in the fleet are still operational? The Queen asked. Less than 40%, Your Majesty. Without human-designed backup protocols, each system failure cascades through the entire network. The Queen's antennae twitched with distress. The Kythera had roamed the galaxy in their massive hive fleets for thousands of years. Now they were trapped in failing ships, unable to navigate safely between star systems. But the technological failures were only the beginning. The deeper problem was political and economic collapse across the galaxy. Without human mediation and trade networks, old territorial disputes were reigniting with unprecedented fury. On Earth, President Seo Jin-yu sat in her secure briefing room, receiving updates from intelligence services monitoring the galactic situation. The reports were almost too incredible to believe. The Althurian Empire has fractured into 17 separate kingdoms, reported Foreign Intelligence Director Jae-Sung Park. Without human diplomatic mediation, territorial disputes that had been settled for centuries have exploded into open warfare. The humans were mediating between Althurian factions. President Yu asked with surprise. More than we realized, Director Park admitted. Human diplomats had been quietly resolving disputes, negotiating trade agreements, and maintaining the balance of power between different alien factions for decades. We were so effective that most aliens forgot how much conflict existed before we arrived. The president studied the galactic political map on her display screen. Formerly stable regions were now marked with red zones indicating active conflicts. How many species are currently at war? Direct military conflicts? 43 separate wars involving over 200 worlds. Trade disputes and economic warfare? Too many to count accurately. Economic advisor Tae-Jun Ryu entered the briefing room with additional reports. Madam President, the economic situation is even worse than the political collapse. The galactic economy has contracted by 60%. Most major trade routes have been abandoned. Abandoned? Human shipping companies provided standardized cargo containers, universal docking systems, and coordinated scheduling across thousands of worlds, Tae-Jun explained. Without those systems, interstellar trade has become chaotic and inefficient. Many planets can no longer afford to import essential goods. What about their attempts to replace human shipping? They have tried, but the results are disastrous. Different species use incompatible cargo systems. Scheduling conflicts result in massive delays. Quality control is almost non-existent. Several colonies have faced starvation because food shipments were delayed or lost. President Yu was quiet for a moment. How many worlds are requesting humanitarian aid? Over 800, Director Park replied. Most are former human colonies or worlds that depended heavily on human services. But we have also received requests from core council worlds where, what kind of aid? Everything. Medical supplies and expertise. Engineering support for failing infrastructure. Food shipments. Technical manuals for equipment they cannot operate. Some requests are quite desperate. The president walked to the window overlooking Seoul. The city bustled with normal activity, completely unaware of the galactic catastrophe unfolding beyond their solar system. What is our official response to these requests? The same as always, Director Park said. We refer them to the Galactic Council for assistance. We remind them that humanity is no longer part of galactic civilization. But the Galactic Council was facing its own existential crisis. On Nexus Prime, emergency sessions had become daily occurrences as member governments dealt with cascading failures across their territories. Council Speaker Zixathara had dimmed to a pale gray, the crystalline equivalent of exhaustion. Her government was spending enormous resources trying to maintain basic services as their infrastructure collapsed. Power failures, communication breakdowns, and transportation system crashes had reduced the mighty Nexari civilization to a shadow of its former glory. We must face reality, she announced to the emergency assembly. The withdrawal of human expertise has crippled galactic civilization. We cannot continue like this. The Grammalian delegate, High Counselor Mordak, raised one of his massive paws. Speaker, my government is prepared to offer territorial concessions to humanity in exchange for technical assistance. Our mining operations have been shut down for 8 months. Our colonial economy is collapsing. Territorial concessions? Clicked the Cathera representative. Are we seriously considering giving away star systems to the humans? What choice do we have? Demanded the Althurian delegate.
Half of my species is living without reliable power.
3 of our core worlds have been evacuated due to infrastructure failures. We are facing civilizational collapse. The debate grew heated as delegates blamed each other for the crisis. Some argued for immediate negotiation with humanity. Others insisted that asking for help would show weakness. A few suggested trying to force humans to return to galactic service. Perhaps we could offer them equal representation in the council, suggested the Velthari delegate. Equal representation? The Nexari delegate hummed angrily. They are one species among thousands. How can they deserve equal status? Because without them we are dying, the Althurian delegate replied bluntly. As the council argued, more reports arrived hourly. The Devourer War was going badly. Military casualties had reached 70% among engaged fleets. 17 worlds had been completely overrun. The ancient enemy was adapting faster than ever, using technologies that only human military scientists seemed to understand. Meanwhile, civilian infrastructure continued its systematic collapse. Communication networks that had connected the galaxy for millennia were failing. Power grids that had supplied energy to trillions of beings were shutting down. Transportation systems that had moved goods and people across thousands of worlds were grinding to a halt. On distant Earth, human monitoring stations recorded every failure, every collapse, every desperate request for aid. The data painted a clear picture. Galactic civilization had been more dependent on human expertise than anyone had realized. The young and aggressive species had somehow become the invisible foundation, holding together an ancient and complex interstellar society. Intelligence. Analyst Young Suk Lim compiled her daily report for the human government. The numbers were staggering. Over 300 alien governments had suffered partial or complete collapse. Economic activity across the galaxy had dropped to levels not seen in thousands of years. Military conflicts were spreading as desperate governments fought over dwindling resources. How long do our analysts predict before complete galactic collapse? She asked her assistant. Conservative estimate? 6 more months before the council dissolves entirely. Many member governments will be too busy with internal crises to maintain galactic participation. And the optimistic estimate? There is no optimistic. 3 years after humanity's withdrawal, former Ambassador Hyun-woo Kim sat in his new office overlooking the Seoul River. His title now read, Director of Galactic Relations, though for most of those 3 years, there had been precious few relations to direct. Today, however, that was about to change. His assistant, now Captain So-young Park, entered the office carrying a sealed diplomatic pouch. Her military uniform bore the insignia of Earth's new Galactic Relations Command. The transformation from diplomatic aide to military liaison reflected how much the galaxy had changed. The formal request has arrived, she announced, placing the pouch on his desk, authenticated with the seals of the remaining council members. Hyun-woo opened the pouch slowly. Inside was a document that would have been unthinkable 4 years earlier, an official request from the Galactic Council for Humanity to return to galactic civilization. Not as junior members seeking approval, but as equal partners in a restructured galactic government. How many council members are left? He asked. 312, So-young replied, down from 1,200 when we left. Most governments have either collapsed completely or withdrawn to deal with internal crises. The numbers told the story of galactic civilization's near collapse. Without human expertise holding together the complex web of technology, trade, and diplomacy that connected thousands of worlds, the galaxy had fragmented into chaos. What are their specific requests? Everything, So-young said with a slight smile. Technical assistance for failing infrastructure, military support against the Devourers, diplomatic mediation for the 47 ongoing wars, economic reconstruction, medical aid. They are also requesting that we establish the new galactic capital in human space. They want us to host the new capital. Apparently, Nexus Prime is no longer habitable. Power grid failures caused most of their crystal cities to collapse. They are relocating their government to emergency facilities, but they lack the infrastructure to host galactic meetings. Through his office window, Hyun-woo could see construction crews working on the massive complex that would become New Geneva Station. Earth's orbital shipyards were building the galaxy's new capital, designed with human engineering and human principles of equality and efficiency. A soft chime indicated an incoming holographic transmission. The images of Admiral Ji-ho Lee appeared in the office. His rank insignia now read, Supreme Commander of Human Space Forces, reflecting his new role as military leader of not just human fleets, but the reformed Galactic Defense Network. Director Kim, Admiral Lee said formally, I am reporting from the Vega system. The Joint Task Force has successfully repelled the Devourer attack using integrated human-alien tactical protocols. Casualties? Hyun-woo asked. Minimal. 15% for our forces, 8% for human units. The new command structure is working well. The difference was remarkable. Under alien-only command, battles against the Devourers had resulted in casualty rates of 70% or higher. Human tactical doctrine, combined with restored communication networks and proper logistical support, had made galactic defense effective again. How are the alien commanders adapting to human leadership? So-young asked. Better than expected, Admiral Lee replied. Most of them are too grateful to be winning battles to worry about pride. War Prime Zelnoth of the Althurians has been particularly cooperative. He said, and I quote, Human military doctrine saved my species from extinction. Similar success stories were emerging across the galaxy. Human engineers had restored power grids on 17 worlds. Human medical teams had ended disease outbreaks on 12 colonies. Human diplomats had negotiated peace agreements in 23 different conflicts. But the real change was not just in human leadership. It was in the fundamental structure of galactic civilization itself. President Seo-jin-yu materialized via hologram in Hyun-woo's office. She was transmitting from Earth's government center, where she had been meeting with alien delegates for weeks. The Constitutional Convention is making good progress, she reported. The new Galactic Cooperative Charter should be ready for signing within a month. What are the major changes from the old council system? Hyun-woo asked. Fundamental restructuring, the president replied. No more senior species and junior species. Every government gets equal representation regardless of age or technology level. No more restrictions on expansion or development. And most importantly, no member can veto another member's internal policies. How are the aliens responding to equal representation? They have accepted it completely. The Nexari delegate said that age without wisdom is meaningless. The Althurian delegate admitted that technological advancement does not guarantee good judgment. Even the Cathera have agreed that diversity of thought improves decision-making. The transformation in alien attitudes had been remarkable. 3 years of crisis had taught them that their assumptions about superiority and hierarchy were not just wrong, but dangerous. The young, aggressive humans they had dismissed possessed exactly the qualities needed for survival in a harsh galaxy. So Young brought up a holographic display showing the current galactic situation. Most of the red zones indicating conflict had turned yellow or green. Communication networks were being restored. Trade routes were reopening. The Devourer advance had been stopped and was being slowly pushed back. The recovery rate is faster than our best projections, she noted. Having humans coordinate reconstruction efforts has dramatically improved efficiency. What about the species that opposed our return? Hyunwoo asked. Most of them have changed their positions, President Yu replied. The few holdouts are mainly species whose governments survived the crisis relatively intact. But even they are requesting specific types of human assistance. A new transmission arrived from Captain Hye-Jin Kang, now director of the restored Galactic Intelligence Network. Her image appeared alongside the others in the increasingly crowded holographic conference. Sir, I have the final assessment of galactic reconstruction progress, she reported. Infrastructure restoration is 60% complete. Economic activity has returned to pre-crisis levels in core systems. Military security is better than it has been in decades. What about the political situation? Hyunwoo asked. Remarkably stable. The new cooperative structure has eliminated most of the territorial disputes that erupted after our withdrawal. Species that were fighting 3 years ago are now working together on joint projects. The transformation was almost unbelievable. The galaxy that had rejected humanity for being too aggressive was now begging for human leadership in military matters. The species that had called humans too young and inexperienced were now following human diplomatic and economic models. Admiral Lee's expression grew serious. Director, there is one more thing. We have received intelligence about a possible Devourer main force gathering in the outer dark. This could be their final push to break through our defense lines. How large? Hyunwoo asked. Potentially thousands of ships. More than any previous Devourer offensive in recorded history. President Yu leaned forward. Can we stop them? With the integrated human-alien fleet and proper tactical coordination, yes, Admiral Lee replied confidently. But it will require full commitment from all member species of the new cooperative. They will provide it, Hyunwoo said with certainty. They know what happens when humans are not part of galactic defense. 3 weeks later, Captain So-Young Park walked through the corridors of New Geneva Station. The massive orbital facility hummed with activity, as representatives from hundreds of worlds prepared for the inaugural session of the Galactic Cooperative. The station itself was a symbol of the new order. Built with human engineering principles but incorporating the best technologies from dozens of species. It represented the kind of true cooperation that had been impossible under the old council system. She entered the main assembly hall, where circular seating arrangements replaced the old hierarchical chamber layout. No species sat higher than any other. No delegate had a larger or more prominent seat. Every voice would be heard equally. The alien delegates were already taking their seats. She recognized many faces from the dark days of the crisis. High Counselor Mordak of the Grammalians, who had been one of the first to request human aid when his mining operations collapsed. Fleet Marshal Kithara of the Nexari, whose crystal form now glowed with the soft blue of contentment rather than the angry red of desperation. War Prime Zelnoth of the Althurians, who had publicly thanked human military doctrine for saving his species. So-Young took her seat at what had once been called the head of the table. Though in the circular arrangement every position was equal, the irony was not lost on her. The species that had been denied equal representation in the old council was now being asked to lead the new one. Director Hyunwoo Kim entered the hall and approached the central podium. The chamber fell silent as he prepared to deliver the opening address of the new galactic government. 3 years ago, he began, humanity left this galaxy because we were told we did not belong here. We were called too young, too aggressive, too dangerous. We were restricted, limited, and treated as children who needed constant supervision. The alien delegates listened in complete silence. Many looked uncomfortable as they